Hello everyone. I'm happy to be with you again at this year's Cyber Week. It's exciting to see the great agenda and the participation that you've lined up. It has been a very busy year for our industry, and I would like to share some of our insights at CyberArk as we help customers around the world secure identity and protect against attacker innovation. Since we were last together, there's been a lot of change. Organizations are increasingly adopting new technologies while facing an increase in the volume and the severity of cyber attacks. Digital transformation and cloud migration initiatives leveraging DevOps methodologies are moving full steam ahead. The rapid move to work from anywhere dissolved any remaining notion of a traditional network perimeter. And attackers haven't stopped innovating. Attackers continue to become more sophisticated in their approach and are becoming bolder, resulting in high-profile, front-page breaches, nearly all of them centered on compromised identities. Now, we all know that traditional security perimeters have been eroding for some time, and this trend has greatly accelerated in the past 18 months. Identity remains a significant target, with a large majority of organizations experiencing an identity-related breach. We recently asked security executives about their views on zero trust and identity security. Here's what we learned. First, credential theft is more of an issue than ever. 97% of senior security executives are seeing an increase in credential theft. We also found that end users and their endpoints are increasingly being targeted. More than half of organizations report increased attacks on their employees. The big takeaway is that in the face of a disappearing perimeter, senior executives view identity security controls as their top priority for making zero trust a reality. Landmark breaches like SolarWinds, Microsoft Exchange, Cloudhopper, and now Kaseya, along with attacks on critical infrastructure, are proof that our attackers are evolving and innovating to achieve their goals. Attacker innovation is happening across multiple vectors. First, attackers are using more sophisticated techniques, such as the Golden SAML method, which was discovered by the CyberArk Labs team in 2017 and was used in the SolarWinds breach. Second, attackers are getting much smarter and more targeted with spear phishing and impersonation attacks, often focusing on non-IT individuals, such as end users who have high-value access to specific systems. Third, the commoditization of supply chain-based attacks. Supply chain attacks were predominantly used across military and government actors, and we are now seeing the commoditization of these techniques trickling down to financially driven actors. As you might guess, identity compromise is the common denominator in all of these attacks, and the abuse of privileged access is almost always a factor in the attack chain. Kaseya is the most recent example of attacker innovation, one that combines the reach of supply chain with the devastation of ransomware. While details are still evolving, the attack on Kaseya is being considered the single biggest global ransomware attack on record. Federal authorities put the number of affected companies in the thousands, affecting financial services, travel, leisure, and public sector computer systems located across 17 countries. Following the Kaseya attack, U.S. government agencies released recommendations for potential victims, including cybersecurity best practices, such as implementing MFA, multi-factor authentication, and least privilege controls. These practices should be foundational to your cybersecurity strategies. Once you get the basics down, it's critical to keep moving, progressing to more sophisticated controls. If this sort of MSP-focused attack sounds familiar, it should. Early last year, I was talking about the Cloudhopper attack that had re-emerged in the headlines. First uncovered in 2016, Cloudhopper was a years-long cyber invasion that targeted the world's largest technology service providers and their customers. One phishing attack at one endpoint went on to impact hundreds of firms that had relationships with breached cloud providers. In the case of one victim, the attack cycle continued for at least 5 years, during which time the attacker repeatedly took whole directories of credentials, giving them the ability to impersonate hundreds of employees. So, MSPs provided the scale, one-to-many. Identities provided the pathway of the attack. In the case of Cloudhopper and Kaseya, for the attacker, it's all about decentralization and connectivity, and targeting trust, trusted software, trusted processes, and trusted relationships. When you look at the stages of an attack, we've identified initial infection, lateral movement, and privilege escalation as the stages with the greatest risk. When considering how to prioritize your security investments, they should map against these areas where your organization is most vulnerable. Over the past year, we've seen highly targeted and damaging ransomware attacks on cities and towns, as well as major healthcare systems around the world. As bad as Kaseya is, it's actually the evolution of years of attacker innovation. Think about 2016, when some of the most damaging ransomware was unleashed, like Locky and Mamba. So what's changed? We're seeing a big shift in ransomware attacks, going from what we'd call opportunistic spray and pray approaches to highly targeted attacks going after specific organizations based on their ability or their need to pay large ransoms, using customized tactics, techniques, and procedures. Over the last several months, CyberArk Labs and the CyberArk Red Team have tracked a significant rise in operator-based ransomware attacks that look a lot different than these opportunistic spray and pray attempts. Operator-based ransomware attacks are executed by highly skilled threat actors that breach the organization and move and escalate strategically. Then, they drop their ransomware from within the organization's network as the last step, only after they've achieved a level of privileged access within the organization. These actors will then follow up with a double extortion, asking the target to pay them twice, once for providing the decryption key for their ransom, and a second time to agree not to name and shame the organization by publishing the sensitive data they have extracted. That's why identity-centric controls are so important to incorporate as part of a defense-in-depth endpoint security strategy, along with EDR and XDR, along with data and network analysis, threat hunting, and incident response tools. Not only can identity security solutions help detect and block the malware itself, but by taking a zero trust, trust nothing, and verify everything approach, they also work to stop identity and privilege abuse at critical points in the attack chain. As you can see, the world has changed quite a bit and continues to change rapidly. Identity is the new battleground, and at CyberArk we've evolved to embrace it. Our mission is to provide a security-first approach to identity security, centered on privilege. Not only do we help our customers defend against increasingly complex attacks, we also enable their digital businesses by implementing new technologies faster, smarter, and more securely. CyberArk's identity security vision is to provide the most comprehensive security offering for any identity, human or machine, across business applications, distributed workforces, hybrid cloud workloads, and throughout the DevOps lifecycle. With 120 related patents, successful acquisition integrations, and non-stop organic development, we are continuously improving how we can secure identities wherever they exist and help organizations keep one step ahead of the attackers. Over the last year, we have increased our customer count by nearly 1,000 and have expanded to 110 countries around the globe. What's more, we are securing privileged access and identities at over 50% of the Fortune 500 and over 35% of the Global 2000. But as was discussed here earlier today, this innovation doesn't happen without an ecosystem of partners, technology partners, business partners, as well as those in the academia and government. We can only strengthen our defenses as a team, a unified team against a common enemy. Expanding on that team-based approach, CyberArk continues to work with a strong ecosystem right here in Israel. From a strong history of organic and inorganic growth, including the acquisition of several Israel-based companies, to ramped up hiring plans. We also recently opened up an office in Beersheba. I was so proud to be there in person for the opening ceremony. As we explore a new era of global business and technology, our world needs to continue working together to secure it. It's extremely rewarding to be part of the Cyber Week event once again and to contribute to the vibrant cybersecurity ecosystem in Israel and throughout the world. Thank you.